At first, they don't just like your emotional availability. They admire it. They say you're emotionally mature, that you're present, that you're different from the rest. You listen, you understand, you're open. And for a while, that openness creates closeness. But then, quietly, something shifts. The same emotional depth that once felt comforting starts to feel heavy. The conversations repeat. The emotions linger longer. The space between you begins to shrink. And one day, without a clear moment where it all changed, you sense it. What once felt like connection now feels like pressure. Not because you stopped caring, but because emotional availability crossed an invisible line. This video is not about becoming cold. It's not about suppressing emotions. And it's not about playing games. It's about understanding why emotional openness attracts until it becomes emotional labor, and how the difference between the two decides whether intimacy deepens or desire quietly disappears. Most people believe emotional availability means talking openly about how you feel. They associate it with transparency, with expression, with putting emotions into words. But emotional availability is not expression. It is capacity. It is the ability to experience emotion without being overtaken by it and without needing another person to regulate you. True emotional availability is contained presence. You are open, but you are not porous. You don't suppress emotion, but you also don't let it spill outward, searching for relief. On a date, this is the difference between calmly acknowledging nervousness and repeatedly explaining why you're anxious. That distinction matters more than most people realize, because the depth of your emotions does not determine your emotional maturity. Your relationship to those emotions does. Emotional availability means you can feel tension, uncertainty, or sadness and still remain grounded. You don't rush to explain it away. You don't rush to hand it to someone else. You don't unconsciously ask another person to become your emotional stabilizer. It's the difference between sharing that work has been stressful and needing reassurance for the entire evening. That's where availability quietly turns into dependence, when emotional expression becomes a tool. To reduce internal pressure, it stops being openness. It becomes discharge. And discharge always creates weight. Attraction fades when a date turns into a therapy session you didn't agree to attend. A person who is emotionally available does not need to be rescued from his emotions. He can listen without collapsing. He can speak without seeking regulation. He can share without losing structure. He can talk about past relationships without asking if he's too much. And that structure is what makes emotional presence feel safe, because safety is not created by how much emotion you show, but by how well you can contain it. In the beginning, emotional availability feels rare, not because it's complicated, but because most people avoid it. They stay polite, surface level, emotionally distant, while pretending to connect. So when someone actually listens, really listens, it creates instant contrast. On early dates, this feels like finally exhaling. Emotional availability creates resonance. It makes the other person feel understood without having to ask for it. And that feeling is addictive. It's why a single deep conversation can feel more intimate than 5 casual dates. At this stage, emotional sharing feels light, not because emotions are small, but because they are moving forward. They don't linger. They don't repeat. They don't ask to be carried. You mention a fear once, and the conversation naturally evolves. This is why emotional availability is so attractive, early on. It signals something rare. I can feel, and I'm still grounded. Someone opens up about their past without needing reassurance afterward. That combination creates desire. But here's the part most people miss. In the beginning, emotions are shared discoveries. You explore them together. You're curious about them. But if nothing changes, something subtle happens. Those discoveries slowly turn into shared responsibilities. The same emotional topics start showing up again, slightly heavier each time. And the shift is quiet. No argument, no obvious mistake. Just a feeling that something feels different. What once felt intimate starts to feel familiar, then repetitive, because attraction depends on emotional movement. And the moment emotional availability stops moving forward, it starts pulling downward. Connection turns into maintenance. And that's when emotional availability begins its transformation, not into closeness, but into weight. Emotional availability does not turn into a burden slowly. It turns in a single psychological moment, the moment your emotions stop moving forward and start circling. At first, emotional sharing creates connection because it reveals something new. But when the same emotions return, without new understanding, without resolution, without integration, they stop being shared. They start being carried. You explain the same insecurity on 3 different dates, just in different words. This is the exact turning point. When emotional expression is no longer about insight, but about relief. When you're not sharing to be understood, you're sharing to feel lighter, and that weight has to go somewhere. The other person begins to feel responsible for how you feel afterward. This is where roles shift. Your partner stops being a witness and quietly becomes a regulator. They're no longer just listening, they're managing, reassuring, stabilizing, containing. They start choosing their words carefully, afraid of triggering another emotional spiral. Attraction cannot survive this shift because desire requires polarity, and polarity collapses the moment one person becomes emotionally responsible for the other. This doesn't happen because you're emotional. It happens because your emotions are uncontained. Because instead of processing emotion internally, you export it externally. What once felt like closeness now feels like pressure to handle you correctly. And here's the most important part. The other person usually can't explain why attraction changed. They just feel it. A tightening, a fatigue, a subtle withdrawal. They say things like, "I don't know. Something just feels off." That's because emotional burden doesn't announce itself. It accumulates, quietly. And once emotional availability creates obligation, it is no longer availability. It is emotional labor. And emotional labor kills desire without ever starting a fight. Attraction doesn't fade because emotions are present. It fades because responsibility shifts. This is the difference most people never learn to see. There are 2 fundamentally different ways emotions show up in a relationship: emotional labor and emotional leadership. Emotional labor happens when one person becomes responsible for stabilizing the emotional state of the other, not occasionally, but repeatedly. They start checking in, not out of curiosity, but out of obligation. A man who needs emotional rescue loses polarity the moment he asks for it. Emotional leadership is the opposite. It means you take responsibility for your inner state. Before you bring it into the relationship, you don't avoid emotion. You don't suppress it. You digest it. You arrive to the date already grounded, not looking to be put back together. Grounded presence is felt before it is understood. This is the critical distinction. Emotional labor asks, "Can you help me feel okay?" Emotional leadership says, "I'm okay. Here's what I learned about myself." One creates exhaustion. The other creates safety. Listening feels easy when insight is shared, and draining when emotion needs managing. Safety grows where emotion meets structure. Emotional labor turns a partner into a caretaker. They begin to anticipate your moods, monitor your reactions, adjust themselves to keep things stable. They start walking on eggshells without knowing why. Caretaking replaces desire the moment it becomes necessary. Emotional leadership does something very different. It allows emotion to exist without transferring its weight. You can talk about struggle without asking for rescue. You can share vulnerability without collapsing into it. You say, "This was hard for me," instead of, "I don't know what to do without you." Vulnerability is attractive when it reveals strength, not when it seeks containment. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Attraction responds to leadership, not labor. Because leadership preserves polarity, it keeps desire alive by maintaining structure. Structure is what allows emotion to move without drowning the relationship. Emotional leadership communicates, "I can feel deeply and still remain solid." That's what creates trust, not perfection, not emotional silence, but the sense that your presence adds stability to the emotional field instead of draining it. Presence that stabilizes is always more attractive than presence that needs stabilizing. And this is why emotional availability only stays attractive when it is paired with leadership. Without it, availability becomes expectation, and expectation becomes burden. When people hear that emotional availability can become a burden, they often jump to the wrong conclusion. They think the solution is to feel less, to share less, to become distant. But suppression is not strength, it's avoidance with better posture. Suppressing emotion doesn't remove its weight, it only pushes it underground. And what goes unexpressed does not disappear. It leaks. It shows up as irritability instead of sadness. It shows up as withdrawal instead of honesty, as sarcasm instead of clarity, as emotional numbness that slowly kills intimacy. You stop talking about what bothers you and start resenting being misunderstood. This is why emotional unavailability is not attractive either. It creates confusion instead of safety. A partner doesn't feel protected. They feel shut out. They sense something is wrong, but have no access to it. Real strength is not silence. It's integration. It's the ability to feel fully, without letting emotion control your behavior. You don't suppress emotion. You process it. You let it move through you until it becomes insight, not pressure. You take time alone to understand what you feel before bringing it into the relationship. This is the line most people never learn to walk, between dumping emotion and disappearing with it, between emotional flooding and emotional withdrawal. Suppression avoids burden by avoiding connection, but leadership avoids burden by containing emotion. You don't unload your inner chaos, you arrive with clarity. And this is why suppression always fails in the long run, because what isn't expressed consciously will be expressed unconsciously. And unconscious emotion is far more damaging than honest, grounded expression. There is a simple framework that keeps emotional availability from turning into burden. 3 rules, not techniques, not strategies, rules. Rule 1, regulate before you relate. Never bring raw emotion into the relationship, hoping connection will calm it. Connection is not regulation. Regulate first, relate second. If you need reassurance to survive the conversation, the emotion isn't ready. Self-regulation means you can sit with discomfort without exporting it. You allow emotion to move inside you until it settles into clarity. You take time alone, then return grounded. Rule 2. Share insight, not intensity. Intensity pulls, insight invites. When emotion is unprocessed, it asks the other person to carry it. When emotion is integrated, it offers understanding. You don't say, "I'm overwhelmed." You say, "I realized why this overwhelmed me." Attraction responds to meaning, not emotional force. Rule 3. Never make your emotion someone else's job. The moment your emotional state requires management by another person, polarity collapses. You can be vulnerable without being dependent. You can be honest without asking for rescue. The difference is whether your emotion asks to be witnessed or stabilized. When emotions stop demanding care, they stop creating weight. Follow these 3 rules, and emotional availability stays what it was meant to be, a signal of depth, not a source of pressure. Because attraction doesn't fade when emotion is present. It fades when emotion becomes work. Emotional availability does not stay attractive because emotions disappear. It stays attractive because emotions are held correctly. What maintains attraction is not how deeply you feel, but how clearly you relate to what you feel. Emotional availability remains desirable when it is selective. Not every emotion needs to be shared. Not every feeling needs an audience. You choose what you bring into the relationship instead of bringing everything. It stays attractive when vulnerability has direction. You share emotions after they've taught you something, not while they're still looking for relief. You speak from understanding, not from overwhelm. Emotional availability also stays attractive when it is consistent. Not dramatic highs, not emotional disappearances, but a steady presence that doesn't fluctuate with every internal state. Your mood doesn't decide how safe the relationship feels. This consistency creates trust because your partner knows they won't suddenly become responsible for your inner world. And here is the quiet truth beneath it all. Emotional availability stays attractive when it invites connection without demanding care. When it says, "See me, not hold me." You open emotionally to be known, not to be carried. That is the balance most people never learn. And once you understand it, emotional availability stops being something you do. It becomes something you embody, a grounded openness, a calm depth, a presence that feels safe because it stands on its own. Emotional availability was never the problem.